Everyone, I'm Tim Allen. I'm the director of the Firoz Lalji Centre for Africa, and I want to welcome you all here. I'm going to hand over to my colleagues in a moment. I should just say something very briefly about the Firoz Lalji Centre for Africa. This is a relatively new initiative at the LSE. We've grown very fast. We have a large research program. Most of our research is linked under the umbrella of the Centre for Public Authority and International Development, which is an Economic and Social Research Council grant for a research centre. And within that, we have a whole range of projects looking at things like humanitarian accountability. We're looking increasingly at issues to do with African trade. We have a whole range of projects that you might like to be involved in at some point or find out about. Information about all of that is on our website, so I do encourage you to look at that. We also have an African engagement program, which we'll talk more about later, and of course the program for African leadership, and a whole series of events that go on through the year. So, this centre is really here for you, and we hope you take advantage of it, and we'll try to respond to all the various things you would like us to do. Our enthusiasm for moving forward with issues to do with Africa, and also linked matters associated with things like Rose Must Fall, Black Lives Matter. These are things that we are very concerned about, and we want your inputs around these things, and we welcome you to become involved in our activities in the course of the year. So at this point, let me hand you over to Stephen Johnson, who's going to be telling us about the Programme for African Leadership.
Hey, hi everyone. I'm Stephen, manager for LSE's Programme for African Leadership. So I'm just going to give you guys a quick rundown of what we get up to. The Programme for African Leadership, or PFAL as it's more commonly known, is a leadership and network building initiative that was started in 2012. We work with MSc African students at the university, and we will run a year-long program that has everything from project management, skills building, debating rhetoric, a whole bunch of socializing, so that we help build a coherent African community at the university. We also have things like our giant alumni network, which have more than 500 African alumni in 40 countries at the moment. We grow by about 60 to 80 alumni a year. And this year we will be welcoming the 10th cohort of the Programme for African Leadership in what is a much different year from previous ones. But for those of you from the 10th cohort who have managed to join us today, we have so much lined up for you. If you haven't heard from us and you are an African MSc student at the university, please do reach out to me. We'd love to have you guys involved in the program. You can find my details on the Firoz Lalji Centre for Africa website. And that is all from me. I hope we have a great day today, and thank you to everybody who is presenting today. I'm really looking forward to it.
Thank you, Stephen. Okay. I will take over. Thank you, Tim, for giving a very lovely introduction. I have the pleasure of I guess, handling the fun part of today, which is really engaging with the artists around Black History Month, which I'm quite proud of. Considering the topic is based on surviving and thriving. I think it really, it speaks a lot to the year that we're in, 2020, which has felt like 5 years condensed into one. There's been a lot of surviving, of trying to survive, and a lot of trying to make the most out of really tough situations. So today we're working with 6 artists from across Africa and the African diaspora who will showcase their work interpreting the concepts of surviving and thriving, and whether surviving in hardship, in quarantine as an adult, and really thriving in these spaces, looking at sort of resilience and vulnerability, and how can we really move past when dealing with difficult situations, how can we move forward. So yeah, thank you for joining us. Without further ado, I'll begin introducing some of the artists before handing over to Fatima, who will give a spoken word piece interpreting the concept. But yeah, to give a brief overview of the artists we have today with us, Fatima Habuka is a writer, performer, and actress from London. We have Kalina Onyaka, who is unfortunately couldn't be with us today, but they have sent over a pre-recorded presentation, which I'm really excited to see. We have, just to give an overview of Kalina's work, he's a versatile artist who uses the language of photography to tell intentional stories. Following Kalina, we have Fumani, who is a singer, songwriter, and aspiring music producer. We have Valerie Asimwe Amani, who is an artistic explorer based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. And we have Kemi Suloa, who is a soul singer from East London. And then we have Bathsheba, who is a Ugandan artist whose practice involves interdisciplinary research and creation at the intersection of information practices and aesthetics, which is a mouthful. So I'm really excited to hear from all of the different artists taking part today. Again, to hear about them, about specifically interpreting the theme of surviving and thriving. What does that mean to them? I think there are many different ways you can take that topic and apply it to yourself. And what better way to do that and to also celebrate Black History Month once we do so. So without further ado, I'll give Fatima's full bio, and then we'll get cracking. So Fatima Habuka is a writer, performer, and actress from London. They were awarded the runner-up status for the Newman Youth Achievement Awards Voice Award in 2018. Their latest credits on stage include Nadine in Calm by Nicole Leckie, and on-screen portraying Zakia in Did You Get the Milk Then by Aston Macaulay. The publication include the poetry collection Recovered Within Sanctuary by Jen Mellon, and Fatima's debut poetry collection Don't Be Dramatic, Light Her Up is coming out soon. That is an awesome title. I have the pleasure to introduce Fatima to give some spoken word today. Thank you.
Thank you. Hi guys, my name is Fatima Habuka, and I actually have two pieces, and I've got 10 minutes, and they're not long. But the first one is they're actually both about identity and about, you know, we're human, we all go through identity crisis, and especially during this time, we all went through a process of trying to recollect our history and know who we are and where we come from. And it's already one thing being African, and it's already another thing being Muslim, and then being a female on top of that. So this is kind of about that, and about, there's a lot of elements in it, but I say the core focus is about identity, and it's called Somali Girl. So I'm just gonna start. Okay. Young Somali girl, when you look in the mirror, what do you see? Do you see your roots, power and beauty, or just a bunch of your insecurities? Do you not see your empowerment and your everlasting gold, or are you feeling on and consuming the beauty standards that Instagram just sold? Somali girl, tell me what you see. Do you allow your crown of ringlets to define how pretty you can be? Tell me how you feel when you wrap your hijab. Does it make you feel like an outsider, even when where you come from is so diverse? Do you allow the welcoming Western world to block out that Quran verse? Young Somali girl with a fair toned skin, do you seek validation from outside or within? Tell me, do you? Does it make you feel good when you're told you're pretty because you're light? Or does it hurt more when you don't fit in with your own people because you're not Black enough, you're too white? Does it bother you when you're told you're not really African or Black, when really and truly Somalia identifies as the Horn of Africa on the roadmap? Somali girl, when you look in the mirror, tell me what you see. Because you should see a Bukhar on her throne, sculpted out of beauty, and not a creation consumed by laid out insecurities. Thank you. I see the clicks and the clicks and the claps. That was my piece, Somali Girl. And then I have a very recent piece, which I actually don't really have memorized in my head, so I do have my little secure blanket. But this piece is actually about me and a good friend of mine who have been having conversations about our history and our identities and our ancestors. And without further ado, I'm just going to get into it. This one's called I'm the Water and You're the Sky. I'm the water and you're the sky. Both blue, although you deny. I say they both reflect the colour surrounding them. Do you reckon that just like us, they have strong chem? The way we both reflect the world surrounding us. The conversations we have and openly discuss. It's like I'm having a conversation with myself, but in another lifetime. Conversations that make the climb feel like I'm doing halftime. The first time I feel like a mad crime, and you tell me that time doesn't exist, and I think that's sublime. I say reflect instead of mirror because they see the world, we see the world but don't absorb it. They're mad at us because they think we're flaunting. The world been throwing shit at us, yet we yawn it. Because let me tell you something. Within our veins lays a power they've been searching for. A power they thought they could get their hands on through war. A power that they gave up on because they've got no more. A power they thought they could bloody rewrite in a bookstore. I see an internal revolution coming fast. A revolution that will recollect our far past. I said to you that maybe our ancestors are connected somehow. Whether or not it's true, your mind only believes what you allow because together we're a whirlwind of power. And I don't think they're ready for it. Just like we're never ready for the sun to rise from the west. Jeez, man. I want to change the world, but who would have guessed? I'm just glad that you're open to listen to a mess. Heavy bags full of all the thoughts I suppressed. Mentally studying the world like I'm paid for this quest. A whirlwind of thoughts, but I know my treasure chest. I'm the water and you're the sky. So many things that we can deny and uncertainty in everyone's eyes, but I'm the water and you're the sky. That's one thing I ain't gonna let you deny. Thank you.
Wow, hold on. That was lovely. That was lovely. That was lovely. That was lovely. Thank you, Fatima. I think you really encapsulated the theme quite perfectly to start us off, especially on how you touch upon the intersections of these various identities which you yourself see yourself as, and then moving towards a place of talking about the revolution that's coming and how you feel that there is a better, a more positive direction that's coming for us at some point. So thank you very much. Okay, gonna shift to Kalina. Issues Kalina now. Like I said at the start, Kalina couldn't be with us today. Currently, he's in Tanzania at the moment on traveling for work. But I'll give his biography, and then he sent through a pre-recorded presentation, which I'll also play. So yeah, our next artist is Kalina Onyaka. Kalina is a versatile artist who uses the language of photography to tell intentional stories. Working through the camera, he strives to create images that help his audience review intricate layers of the world and his view of it. Kalina's deep, orientated style has seen him photograph moments for Notting Hill Carnival, London Fashion Week, Africa, London Fashion Week, and Afro Nation. Kalina has also fused his street style into his portraiture work, which has seen him collaborate with various streetwear brands, as well as producing album covers and promotional content for musicians. So a lot to take in, which I'm really excited to see.
Thanks for introducing me, Kojo, and good afternoon, everyone. Really sorry that I couldn't be there with you now live. I'm currently in Tanzania and traveling around. I did have a feeling that I would be in a spot where I didn't have access to internet, so I decided to record this in the morning from my hotel room to make sure I could still engage in this very important topic. And please bear with me, and I apologize again for not being there with you live. My name is Kalina Onyaka. I'm a photographer based in London, but I do a lot of work in Africa as well, hence currently in Tanzania right now. And so I just wanted to kind of talk about a project that I've worked on recently called Looking Back. and kind of speak on the topics of surviving and thriving, and how this project encapsulates that for me, as well as giving you a bit of glimpse into the process behind making it. And yeah, hopefully, if you have any questions or anything, feel free to link up, email, send me a message after. I'd be happy to follow up with those. Yeah, so I'm just going to share the work with you now while I talk on the themes. Okay. Great, hopefully you can all see this. So this is a photo series called Looking Back. It's a series of portraits depicting Nigerian, or let me say Igbo culture over 100 years, in particular through the forms of fashion and hair, starting from 1910 all the way to 2010. It's not in order intentionally, but that is essentially, we took every 10 years and looked for popular fashion references or wherever we could find photos of people in the time, and recreated those and took portraits from the back. And I think for starters, when we talk about surviving, in particular in the diaspora, if you look from the very early images, in particular the ones where there's no tops, and you go all the way to the images of the model with a cap, kind of similar to me, there's an element of surviving there that is very important, and I think very key to thriving as an African in this diaspora, because you need to know that you've come from somewhere great, and somewhere with a great long culture and history that has evolved and advanced over time, and that doesn't die, that hasn't gone away because you are now living in the diaspora. Me as an Igbo person, my culture has survived through centuries and is still here and is adapting. And for me, that's very key to remember as someone in the diaspora, because when you live in diaspora, in particular for me in England, in London, you look around and you see the systems in place and the people in power, and it's not very representative of you. So it's very hard, and just in the environment in general, where you see the portrayal of Black people in the media, we go through we have a lot of issues with racism still that need to be addressed, and having to go through these things in the diaspora, I think is very hard. And in order to survive, you need to kind of find a way to understand or find your identity and hold on to that, but also take what you can from that and adapt and in a way, or adjust it in a way so that you can live here, so that you can survive. So I'm British Nigerian. That's very key. I will never say that I'm just British, and at the same time I can't wholly say that I am just Nigerian, because I grew up mostly in Britain. But that is very key, to make sure that Nigerian, I hold on to it as much as I can, and I take what I can from it and adapt it to help me live here in the UK. And I think when you look over time and you understand how cultures have developed, and almost as an offshoot of the environment that you live in, and people passing down knowledge over centuries, and customs and traditions that have helped the people thrive in the environment they're in. When you understand that, then you understand that culture and traditions and things like that do adapt. So as someone in the diaspora, it's almost harder, right? Because you don't have the 100 years of experience or knowledge being passed down to you easily, for someone that is actually very much like you in terms of being both African and growing up outside of Africa. So sometimes you have to do a lot of that thinking and understanding for yourself. And I think that is what is, for me, the testament to people in the diaspora and surviving, just it's not easy, I think, to constantly go through identity crises and things like that. But it's a very much a reality for people in the diaspora, I feel like. And, we continue to grow, we continue to learn, we continue to understand ourselves and our history. And yeah, we survive. And then from that, I think we continue to thrive. And I think they're very much connected in the sense that, for me, and looking at this body of work, my ability to thrive in my environment now is, looking back and understanding that, I've not come from yesterday. There's a part of me that has centuries and centuries worth of history. And, some of that, unfortunately, from the educational system is lost here in terms of my history as an African, my history as a Nigerian, my history as a Black man, my history as an Igbo man. Those things are not easily fed to me compared to the history of Britain. And I think we are now in an era and in a period of thriving, because in particular for me, and through this body of work, I feel more at ease. I understand myself a lot more, because in order to go forward, I think you need to look back, essentially looking back in this body of work. But I think looking back, and because it's kind of like history is the blueprint. There's so many patterns and things that you can see through history of people that have survived and gone through essentially almost everything that you've gone through. And they are in very much ways similar to you. They come from similar backgrounds, similar culture, similar community. So if you lose that blueprint, it's very hard to survive. But I think as diasporans, and particularly in the recent, in the last few years, there's really been a big push to look back home, to understand home a bit more. And for me, I've been very fortunate that I've been able to spend a lot of time back home, and that has kind of expedited, sped up my process of yearning and wanting to understand my history more. But I think it's a movement that continues to grow, and I think as it grows, we will see people able to thrive, because you have, your understanding of Western culture, history, and all of that. But once you balance that off with understanding who you are as an African as well, and the history and where you've come from, and gaining that pride from that, knowing that you didn't come here yesterday on a boat and there was nothing before. Once you have that balance, then I think you're able to thrive, because you know yourself, and you've got all the patterns from yourself, not just the patterns from the environment that you're in, the patterns of you as a person, and your culture over hundreds of years. And so, yeah, to wrap that up, I think that's what I try to encapsulate. And talking about the theme of surviving and thriving, I think history plays a very, 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 very big key to life, to succeeding in life. You need to look back in order to go forward. But the issue with people in the diaspora is that we are not easily fed the information or history that we would need. At least it has to be 50-50. I would even argue it should be more swayed towards, your African history, because that is your DNA. But essentially, this is what this body of work is doing, is trying to get the viewer to think about their history. Do they know their history? Who owns their history? In particular, some of these images, I guess to talk about the process and to wrap up, the reason why I did this body of work is because as I was studying Igbo history and reading through a lot of books, all the way back from books that were authored in 1920s, looking through those books and looking through a lot of the images there, you see very dull images of Black people, of Africans, in particular of Igbo people, very lifeless, very, just dull images. And they were kind of subjects of study, right? As opposed to capturing them in their full beauty, their full culture, and their full ways of life. And for me, as a visual person, as I was looking through these images, this is what I was retaining. And it wasn't great, because when I read the text, there was a lot of information in there, but visually I was retaining these images of my ancestors just standing there, very dull profile images. So that's what spurred me to do this project as a way of reclaiming, redocumenting, and revisualizing my history, so that I can, I can claim it and I can have ownership of it. It's not the anthropologists that went there to take images of Igbo people as a study. You know, it's more putting the ownership and the responsibility as well on me to look back and understand my history. And I hope this encourages other people as well, not just Igbo people, all cultures, to look back, especially those in diaspora, to look back, understand your culture, and not just the culture as is presented to you in the West, but also look further and find other ways. Speak to your parents, speak to your grandparents, your great-grandparents, if you're fortunate enough to have them, and understand your history so that you have that side of you, as well as all the history in the environment that you're living in. You put the two together, and I think we continue to survive and continue to thrive. I hope I haven't spoken too long, and I hope you guys were really able to understand what I was trying to portray and the themes that come out to me from this project. It's actually currently on display in Liverpool at the Open Eye Gallery. So if anyone has a chance, feel free to go there and check it out at the digital window. Feel free to also email me, connect with me on Instagram. That's the platform I use the most. And yeah, and I just wanted to quickly just tap out by saying, you know, if you can in any way, read up and understand what is going on in Nigeria right now, in particular the End SARS movement. There's a lot going on there. I don't want to make this talk a political talk, but you know, as a diasporan and any diasporans that are here, we also have a responsibility to make sure things are good back home. So if I encourage everyone who hasn't already to look into it and find ways to support if you can. But speaking from my experiences with police in Nigeria, in particular with my camera, you know, I've been stopped, harassed and threatened many times. And so I think it's great, and it's something that I couldn't have not spoken on at this talk, but I don't mean to distract, and I hope you were able to follow up on that in your own time. And again, feel free to message me on that front as well. So yeah, thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, Kojo. Thank you to LSE. I'm actually LSE alum. I did finance there. And so this is actually a great opportunity to come back as an artist, not a finance grad. But yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you all have a great day.
Going to transition to somebody who I've known for the last year whilst working at LSE, who I'm very excited to hear speak in Fumani. I'll give Fumani's bio and let him set the tone. Having heard one of the songs that he produced just before this call, I'm very excited to hear the totality of his presentation. But I'll begin by saying Fumani is a singer and songwriter and aspiring music producer who recently completed the first phase of his MSc in Global Media and Communication at LSE. He's passionate about growing the arts and entertainment sector in the African continent by bringing together a mix of talent that is able to show off the creative uniqueness of each country on the continent and to strengthen the laws and legislation that should aid the growth of the continent's creative sector. He's also a believer that through the arts, there will be increased advocacy on issues of social justice, and the arts will be fundamental in achieving a society that is fair, just, and equal for all, especially for the marginalized, which I think, again, encapsulates this theme quite perfectly. So I'd like to hand over to Fumani to take the stage.
Hello, everybody. Welcome. I hope everyone is good, alive in different parts of the world. In this side of the world, it is gray skies and everything, but we're surviving. And if you're in other parts where there's sun, please absorb all of it in the melanin in the skin, and I hope everything is going good. Thank you to the African Centre for giving me this opportunity to perform. Just a disclaimer, I've had the theme surviving and thriving is very true, because even to present what I've presented still is in a bit of the rough phases, but because I started something, you know, technologies then said, you know, it's not gonna happen, delete everything, then you must start from scratch. And then people that you want to collaborate with are like, we can't do it. And then they run away with equipment and all of that. So we are surviving and thriving in various ways. But today I'll be presenting two songs. One is just a pure instrumental, just to set us into it so we can get our bodies moving and somehow. And the second song that I'll be presenting will have a first part will just be a vocal work that I've done a little bit, and then the rest is just an instrumental, just to set the tone. So the first song that I'll be doing is called Dreams Are Valid. I did this where I was busy playing around with a few beats there and there, and I was like, you know what, as people have gone through a pandemic and various injustices that are happening in the world, our dreams are valid and we are allowed to ease into things. We shouldn't always have to fight for everything, and we are allowed to have fun wherever we need to have fun. So I hope this song captures what we're allowed to, captures who we are, the fun we're allowed to have. And here is called Dreams Are Valid, and please let me know if you can hear it. And that was Dreams Are Valid. That was song number 1. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you so much. Thank you. And the second song that I'll be doing is a song that I did. It's already uploaded on my SoundCloud page, which I'll share here. But I just took it and played around with it just to start it at different phases. It's called Reflections. Similar reasons as to why I did Dreams Are Valid. The song was kind of inspired by the BLM protests, things that are happening all over the world. And despite everything that we have to go through, we still manage to go through life. And people just need to realize that ain't nobody gonna stop us at any point, at any juncture. The haters will hate, the people who don't support will never support, but it's fine, we're still soldiering on. So this is called Reflections, Can You See Me? Sorry about that, sorry. And in 3, 2, 1, go. Can you see me? Proving you are wrong, I know you see me. A warrior in me, I know you see it. Oh, always winning, hands down because we're winning. I know very well that you see me down and falling, but I'm winning. Never losing, chest pains for you, we're rising. Child of the soil, you are the chosen one. Keep fighting for what's yours because you own it. Chosen child, you own it. Can you see me? Can you see me? Child of this world, you own it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, 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 yeah. Proving you were wrong, I know you see me. Warrior in me, I know you see it. Winning hands down because it's who we are. Hands down. Haters, ain't nobody got time for that. I'm winning. Oh yes, I'm winning. You see me. Hands down, I'm winning. Oh yeah. Yeah, Thank you, everybody. I'm done.
Wow. That was lovely. That was lovely. That was lovely. I thought you had a very interesting and just a great. It started with bops and vibes, and then got very, very tender, and then also had like sprinkles of attitude with the call out today. It was like just thrown in there, which I thought was fantastic. So thank you for sharing for money. I thought that was really fantastic. Okay. Moving on. Okay, so following on from Fumani, I have the pleasure of introducing Valerie. Valerie is an artistic explorer based in Dar es Salaam, Tanzania. Her multimedia approach incorporates textile, poetry, moving image, and digital collage into her work, most of which is self-taught. She is also an author, curator, and art educator, focusing on enriching art education within her community. She experiments with elements of emotion and memory, and her art pieces having narratives around the changing complexities of identity and body, along with the nuances of daily existence through an African feminine lens. Her work has been featured in various international exhibitions, including The Main Complaint at the Zeitz MoCA Cape Town, and Magician, Black Bodies and Portraiture at the FFCA in Los Angeles. Furthermore, she has co-authored a multimedia book titled Black Amara, a visual and literary journey of love, loss, and healing, to be available in late 2020. So please do look out for that. And she's currently an MFA student at the University of Oxford. So please welcome Valerie.
Thank you, Kojo, and the LSC team for organizing this. And I don't think bios are meant to be read out loud like that. But anyway, yeah, I'm temporarily in the UK now in quarantine, so I'm missing the Tanzanian side. But on today's topic of surviving and thriving, I wanted to start off with a recent personal experience that I went through for fundraising for my education. And I'm going to play a video, which was basically a video art piece that maybe speaks to the surviving and more exploring the institutional boundaries that finances pose that might be the difference between our survival and our thrival. I hope that's the word, thrival. But so I'm gonna share my screen, and this is a 2-minute video, 1 minute, 50 seconds, and then I'll say a little bit about it afterwards. All right, so a little background on the video. I had, for the past 2 years, I had been planning to come and undertake an MFA. I had the goal of studying at the Ruskin at Oxford. And for 2 years, I'd been planning to apply for a certain scholarship and working towards that goal. Now, COVID happened. Everybody knows how the story goes. The scholarship at the last minute was not possible. And so with the help of, fellow artists and friends, we started a fundraising campaign. And this was one of the results of the fundraising campaign. And I can only say I'm sitting right here in my student room because of the community support that I received from this campaign. And with this, just backtracking more with survival, it made me realize a couple of things just about how we're socialized, maybe within our communities. There was an example where someone asked me, because I come from a middle class African family, which a lot of times that carries its own weird guilt, because in our own extended families, you can see the disparity, the economic disparity. So I was privileged enough to have gone to university before in South Africa. So this particular person was like, why do you want to go study again? Like, you already have a degree, isn't that enough? And it made me feel like, for a second, I felt guilty for asking for more and for wanting more for myself. And I think this is an issue only within our communities, because there's kind of this belief that if you're given something good, you should be happy with it. As an African person, as a Black person, these are your boundaries. And maybe this is just, from my experience and what I've seen. But really, I think what we need to look at is just how much more we can achieve when we're able to ask for more, when we're able to put ourselves in positions to say that I actually do deserve this. And I think in order for us to thrive as a community, we must also be in positions to thrive and in positions to educate and empower. And so that's why this video also is quite important, because I focus more so on art education and the access to education. And education doesn't only have to be formal institutional education. Education can be, you know, community centers, it can be residencies, it can be workshops. So yeah, I think mostly out of this, my point with this video was trying to get out of the mindset of we do not deserve to we deserve everything. And so the second piece I want to show, it's so weird talking to a computer screen, not knowing what people are saying, but the second thing I want to share is an art piece. There we go. This is an art piece I made while in quarantine at my parents' house in Dar es Salaam earlier this year. And it's called Long Walk on a Parallel Street. And the story behind this, first of all, I was having a conversation with my mother, and I was asking her about her goals and her dreams. And I don't know how many of you have asked your parents about their goals and their dreams, but my parents are quite pragmatic, especially my dad. He's very practical. He's like, I didn't have dreams, I just had to work hard, you know, and just acknowledging that goals and achievements mean something so different from our generation, our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation, because they basically had to survive. That was their only option. For many of them, thriving was not even an option. So when I was talking to my mom, you know, I asked her if she had any regrets, and her response was, I have no regrets because you are my greatest achievement. And it kind of made me think about, you know, in accordance to this theme, how we carry more as Africans of the continent and in the diaspora, how we carry more than we might be conscious of. So this first scene is me, and it's kind of appearing, and this thing of like being our parents' greatest achievement makes me think of the genie in the bottle, kind of like a magician, and how we have been manifested, how our ancestors have manifested us. And then the second one speaks more to the hybridity of us, because we are multicultural. We are part of this generation that has been exposed to so many things. So we're kind of a new being within ourselves as modern millennial Africans. We kind of are this hybrid creature. And then this third pose with the keys reflects on the notion of freedom and what it means to be free. And perhaps we're still figuring that out for ourselves, you know. But basically the keys being handed down from generation to generation. And lastly, the last one again, dissipating the future, anticipating what I will pass down to my biological or whatever children, you know. And so this whole thing, thinking about existentialism, for some reason I called it Long Wait on a Parallel Street, because I was thinking about waiting for Godot and how they're waiting by a bus stand. And maybe how, although we don't know when the communal thriving will happen for all of us, but we are still hopeful. And lastly, thinking about thriving more of a generational journey than just an individual thriving as a generational journey is more than just an individual achievement, and how hopefully we'll no longer have to shape shift to belong. And with that, I'm going to end off with a little note I wrote. I'm not a performer, so I'm just going to read from my notebook. 2 days ago, when I was kind of thinking about this idea of surviving and thriving. All right. So here we are, stripped bare but not naked, blood-crusted elbows, bruised spirit, dipped in names that carry us back to ourselves. Names. I left myself to return home. I left home to return to the ground, where the first breath turned into life, where our history wasn't erased but celebrated. Isn't it a wonder how well we celebrate? So here we are with familiar embraces, old lips on newborn cheeks, a legacy past, reborn, a healing song. Here we are to sing, to rebuild, to strike down, copper clashing, to destroy the chains. Here we are on fire but never burning, reincarnated. Here we are. All right, and that is me. I'm done. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you so much, Valerie. I think you touched on a lot of points, which I was writing notes for frantically, trying to capture them. I have a lot of questions, and it's a real shame we don't have a Q&A section for this, but do thank you for sharing. I thought particularly the point you mentioned on your mom, saying that you were her greatest achievement, and just kind of made me think a lot about how, especially with, I guess, our parents or millennials who have been through maybe difficult situations or just grown up and having survival within them, and the idea that sort of, whilst there may not be physical scars or mental scars, but our existence in itself is survival, and our existence itself is a form of really powerful storytelling. So thank you. Okay, and now we're really blessed with having loads of amazing artists for this event, and then blessed with having two singers, which I'm excited to introduce. The final singer being Kemi Suloa. Kemi, with a sound often linked to the golden era of 90s R&B, Kemi Suloa brings the feel-good vibe to her listeners through the use of positive messages, emotive melodies, and her light, warm vocal tone. Born and raised in East London, the British soul singer has released her own music projects, which has gained international acclaim in the music scene, as well as supported and collaborated with award-winning artists such as Stormzy, Tidra Moses, and PJ Morton. Additionally, she has been recognized by legends such as Trevor Nelson and Janet Jackson. She's also a member of the Brit Voting Academy, where she's able to use her voice to nominate some of the most credible acts in British music for the prestigious award. Kemi has collaborated with other artists within her field, as well as teaches performance and vocal techniques for the young people and children. So please welcome Kemi.
Hey, thank you so much. That bio sounded really good. I was like, hey. But anyway, I'm going to sing a couple songs for you guys today. The first song I'm going to sing is a song of mine called Nothing Compares. So I'm just going to get the music up for you guys, and I hope you enjoy it. And that was lovely hearing your pieces as well, guys. Like, it was lovely. Let me just find it real quick. Okay, can you hear it? It's called Nothing Compares. But there's always a neck in my side. Really trying to make things right. You don't even see me, guess you don't need me anymore. I've been keeping this bed on myself, and I'm breaking it for really, really miss you. I really, really miss you. I said I really, really miss you. I really, really miss you. 'Cause nothing can miss you. And I'm trying to tell sometimes that I can't get the thing. nothing, nothing, nothing. Nothing, nothing, nothing. Oh, nothing, nothing, no. Oh, there's nothing, nothing, nothing. And Lord knows it hurts to face it. I've been so mad about it. And the same what more could I say? The more I get, the more you pull away. And you don't care for me, you don't need me anymore. And I've been keeping this battle to sell. And I'm bringing it for really miss you. I really miss you. I said I really miss you. I really miss you. 'Cause nothing compares to you. And I'm trying to tell that I can't get the pain of your nothing compares to you. I'm trying to 1,000 times that I can't get the pain of your nothing compares to you. The more that I think I'm mine, the more that I think I guess it's part of life. Sometimes people grow apart. You always know that you hold a special place within me. Since you was there from the start. So you know when you brought me where I am. So should you ever hear the song? Sorry for the things I did wrong. But no, I can't. Nothing compares to you. Nothing compares to you. In the moment I think of flying. Oh, nothing, nothing, nothing. Oh, there's nothing. No, 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 no. Nothing compares to you. Oh, when I try to hide it, and I try to fight it, but it hurts me as it hurts me. Oh, there's nothing. No, 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 no. Hey, yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, yeah. No. Thank you guys. I hope you had that. So that was Nothing Compares. The next song I'm going to do for you guys is a song called People, and it's just a song about encouragement. And as I'm thinking about the theme of striving and thriving, you know, in life you have to be, you know, sure of who you are and just go for things because there's opportunities out there. So I hope this song inspires you as well. So this is called People. Too many people who are walking in fear. Don't you know that it's equal to a bird who has wings? But it's caged so bad, longing just to be free. Won't you listen to me? So I was coming back, walking home with this on my mind. Know if you open your eyes wide enough, that stranger to find. They say we're born to make a difference, so everyone should try. But how are you to make a difference if your light doesn't shine? Said there's too many people who are holding themselves. Don't you know that if you don't check your reality, for you were born royalty, makes you a child of a king. Why don't you acknowledge it? La 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 la. No precious time is all we have. La 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 la. Don't you know there's so much you can add? La 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 la. All you need is your own self-belief. Yeah. And imagine all you can achieve for is too many people who are holding themselves. Don't you know that this people had your reality? For you were born royalty, makes you a child of a
sorry about that, the next song was playing, but that was People. And sorry, I don't know if you heard the message too well, but that's just to believe in yourself and go for what's yours. So I hope you guys got that. Thank you.
Many claps, many claps, many claps, many claps. I see people clapping.
The sound was working there, but
no, it was fantastic. It was fantastic. It was fantastic. I have, in terms of my notes, I really just have like written down, like, because that was really, really lovely. And I really appreciate the positive messages that you have in your lyrics that I think have a place, particularly around the concept of thriving in itself. And definitely have a place in this one. I thought it was quite beautiful. So thank you very much, Kemi.
Recording that, so hopefully you can hear it a lot better.
Awesome. Send me with your sort of website and whatnot. I'll all be links within the event page. So if you do want to check out sort of any of the artists who performed, including Kemi, then please do visit the event page. Okay, so that brings me to introducing our final artist, who is somebody who I guess I've technically was introduced to a year ago through the FLCA, but hadn't had a chance to like actually meet digitally face to face until now. And I'm really excited for to see their work with a very extensive bio. So it's quite lovely. Bear with me. So yeah.
You don't need to read the bio.
I'll read out some of the bio. Just for context. But Bathsheba Kwenje is a Ugandan artist currently living in Rwanda. Her practice involves interdisciplinary research and creation at the intersection of information, practice, and aesthetics. Through the prism of love, dislocation, and the everyday, her work investigates hidden histories, the interior lives of people, and the interactions between them. Bathsheba is interested in the convergence of typographies and the archive to communicate her work. I'll leave it there because I'm pretty sure Bathsheba will speak much more about her work. But Bathsheba is also a visiting fellow at the FLCA, so this is a double special moment for us, for myself and the staff included. So Bathsheba, the floor is yours. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. So you're gonna show the presentation on your, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so thank you so much, Kojo, and thank you so much all the other artists on the panel. It's been fantastic. It's just like a lovely afternoon of culture and learning so much. I've really appreciated it. So again, my name's Bathsheba Kwenje. I'm an artist from Uganda. The work that I'm presenting is one of a series of works that I created to explore the aftermath of war in northern Uganda. And the work is called the Tuna Archive, and it is a material archive that I feel is very much in line with the theme of surviving, but asks questions about the notion of thriving. And the genesis of the project was during a residency that I participated in Uganda in 2018, hosted by the Uganda Arts Trust and the Africa Center at LSE. But it was based in Uganda. Next. Kojo, next slide, is it on?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm not seeing it.
Oh. Let's try this again.
Okay. Perfect, okay. So during the residency, I made one fully realized work that I titled Gang Kikome and Other Things We Left Behind, which is, some of the pieces are on the screen, you can see. And this was a collection of objects that were left behind in settlement camps once the camps were disbanded at the end of the war. I was interested in these objects because to me, they were traces of humanity and reflected lives that had been lived there. And then they also had this added layer of meaning in that they could be considered as objects of aid, and yet for many, they're cultural artifacts. Next slide. And so Gankikome and Other Things Left Behind was exhibited on the grounds of the Uganda National Museum and was permanently installed at TAC Center in Gulu in northern Uganda, which was the epicenter of displacement during the war. Next slide. During the residency, I also created a series of studies, and in hindsight, I saw that what I was trying to get at was the interiority of the experience of life in the aftermath of war. Next slide. And so this led me to go back to Gulu in Uganda 3 times after the residency to do more research. And with the help of the Africa Centre and Raphael Kerali, who's a researcher based in Gulu, who's a researcher for the Africa Centre based in Gulu, I was able to meet and engage with 36 former forced wives of LRA combatants. Next slide. And with their approval and inspired by the research of Dr. Holly Porter, I made a very intimate body of work about their experience of love in the aftermath of war. So love after the war. Which brings me, next slide, which brings me to the work that I'm presenting here, the Tuna Archives. Now, tuna is the Acholi term to mean a courtship between a man and a woman. And the Tuna Archive is a collection of gifts that the women that I worked with received in their pursuit of love and commitment in the aftermath of war. And just for context, love as I understood it in this context, sort of the Acholi context, was defined as respect, partnership, and a planning for a shared life. It wasn't sort of this sort of anglicized romantic notion of love. And I understood also that this idea of love was necessary to bind and rebuild society after the war. And so basically during courtships, gifts that symbolize a promise of commitment are exchanged between the man and the woman. And the majority of the courtship gifts offered to the women that I worked with were utilitarian. They included objects such as, kitenge cloth, a coin purse, a handbag, a mobile phone, just to name the few. And in rebuilding Acholi society after the war, there was the expectation that, traditional courtships and relationships and their attendant rituals and practices would resume. And so courtship sort of between a man and a woman was one of these things that were necessary, that resumed. And also I saw the courtship gifts as indications of a return to normalcy. Sorry, next slide. Next one. Okay, so I saw the courtship gifts as indications of a return to normalcy, of surviving after the dislocation of war. And this I saw as an act of resilience, sort of overcoming hardships, which I feel, again, is in line with the theme of this talk. Next slide. Along with the courtship gifts, I also captured the women's testimonies and testimonies about love and, the pursuit of love in the aftermath of war. And these testimonies sort of reveal the varied realities of the women's experiences in their search for commitment and love in these circumstances. So these are excerpts. What you're seeing on the screen are excerpts of the interviews that I conducted and the testimonies that the women gave. And in some instances, the courtship gifts, sorry, next slide. In some instances, the courtship gifts represented a return to normalcy and a promise or expectation of the shared life and hope sort of for the perpetuation of their lineage. Next slide. For others, they led to fulfilling relationships defined by the commitment and love and support, while many others experienced courtships shaped by continuing vulnerabilities from the war. Next slide. And so I chose to present these courtship gifts as a collection, sort of as a material archive of love. And I chose that because of the power of the archive. As I see it, the archive, which is this collection, which is a collection and a preservation of information that is considered historically significant. And the archive sort of regulates what is known, what is preserved, and whose perspective is employed. Next slide. And so using this position of authority of the archive, I wanted to move beyond and disrupt sort of the way in which the women's stories had been told, you know, their story of forced marriage and abduction that had been sort of superimposed on them. I wanted to disrupt that and ensure that their story included a present and a future, and that this was preserved, hence sort of the framework of an archive. And also, you know, just I wanted to ensure that the archive, as representative of a historical record, includes the women's stories and includes their stories as they unfold, and not only their past. And so that's the Tuna Archive. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'll clap for you myself because I can't get the video up. But thank you so much. I thought that was the perfect way to kind of end the actual event, and encapsulates again these themes to the T, in terms of you just capturing the interiority of the experience of war, which is something actually I've never seen before. If I'm honest, I haven't seen sort of a focus on intimacy after war, particularly on like the materials, and it made it almost seem very delicate and in a way which is really engaging to see, and made me think about love and thriving through from conflict quite in an interesting way. So thank you. Thank you a lot. Thank you to all of the artists who performed and showcased their work today and addressed themes in different ways. Despite the technical difficulties, this has actually gone better than I ever could have imagined, just because of the experience I've had today. So, and I'm sure the experience our audience has also had. So thank you all. Please give yourself a round of applause. Yeah, be well, keep surviving, keep thriving, and just keep on as best you can, and hopefully we'll see each other soon at some point. But thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you.